You have to have the WhatsApp though. That's the thing. Was everybody? Did you all join the WhatsApp that was there previously and now, or no?
No.
Yeah, that's how to do that. First off, you have to download WhatsApp on your phone,
But
and then once, I'm sorry.
Does it have to be a phone? Because I don't have.
Yeah,
a
yeah, it does.
Okay.
I don't know. I don't know if you can do WhatsApp from a computer. I don't think so. I think it has to be a phone because you have to have a phone number to join the group.
Okay. Yeah.
So
I
I'm pretty sure
phone,
it has to be a phone.
It doesn't do apps, so.
Yeah. No, you would have to have a phone that did apps and then join the WhatsApp. But through Mixler, yeah, you can listen to his talks every day.
Okay. Yeah, I don't have to do it live necessarily, you know. I mean.
Well, you're not going to do it live at 2 a.m.
Yeah, no, that's the thing. Our time, it is like 2 a.m.
Yeah.
Yeah. That would be kind of. Okay, so now we got 6 people here. I'm not sure who 732-986-5473. I'm not sure who that is.
Yeah, this is Mohar. Yeah.
Oh, okay. Is that you, Manohar?
Yeah, that's me.
Okay, good. Thanks for identifying yourself.
No, I came after a long time. Yeah.
Hello.
All right, you're on my mailing list. You also get the recordings, I think, too.
Yep.
That's good. Keep up with the crowd here.
Yeah, no, 2 months before I went and saw Maharaj too. Then again I came back here. So.
Oh, okay.
December. Yeah.
All right. Well, welcome back.
Yeah.
All right. All right. So we have some questions. Let's see. Trish has a question, but she forgot
it. I haven't got it.
But I didn't forget mine.
We got a workman here today, and it's just a busy.
And you mean the workman took your question away?
No, but I got confused.
Okay. Well, my question has to do with a quote that John put on the Facebook a couple days ago, and it was from Siddha Ramesh Lahar.
Siddharameshwar Maharaj.
Yes, and it was a quote in which he says that if you say, I am Brahma, and you do not realize, you will become a demon after death. That was pretty darn scary. So could you elaborate on that? What does that mean? That if all of a sudden, you try and supposing you don't get the realization, you do all your work and it doesn't come. I mean, it's not up to you. So then you become a demon after you die?
Well, once again, like Maharaj would say, the purpose of that was to say your egoic sense of self egoistically can't, you're not saying, oh, I'm Brahman or I'm God or this or that. It's that says that. And there is nothing other than that. So there's no worries of any kind.
Oh, okay.
You are always that. You're just pretending not to be through the filter of ideas and beliefs and concepts.
Uh-huh. Yeah. I mean, it seemed like the way I read it, I didn't understand it, and it seemed like the threat of, eternal damnation or something. I mean, I was raised Catholic, so that's always in the back of my mind.
Yeah, it's like Maharaj would say, don't take these things literally.
Oh, okay.
It's the presence behind the speaking that is being conveyed.
Okay.
What he wants to say is, you are Brahman. Yeah. But don't think and pretend to be Brahman, because that would be a great sin to pretend to be Brahman. You are Brahman, no need to pretend. You are that.
Okay. So, yeah. I mean, only the ego would pretend to be Brahman because it wants to be something special, right?
Well, and the whole idea is that any separation from Brahman is pretending to be Brahman. Like Maharaj says, the pressure of the body knowledge, or the pressure of the identity, that is erased slowly, silently, permanently with mantra. You're one with the mantra, you're one with your selfless self. The idea is that you are that. You know, like Maharaj says, Master says you are Brahman. You are Brahman. Live like Brahman. Act in the next moment as Brahman.
Yeah.
This entire illusory world is exactly that. It's totally illusory. And this character is an illusory character that is trying to seek Brahman.
Yeah.
There's nothing other than Brahman. It's only an idea or a belief or a concept that separates the reality from the false.
Yeah, I can accept that, and I trust, you know, that he knows what he's talking about, you know.
He
but-
is you.
Yeah. Okay.
I mean, he is your selfless self speaking to you, the selfless self.
Yeah.
And the whole idea, like Maharaj says, the basics of spiritual knowledge is accept your selfless self. There's no God, no Brahman, no Atman, no Paramatman, no Master. Nothing is there. So all of these different various things are just to point you back to that reality.
Yeah.
And I think we did a little talk about I am Brahman is not a declaration. You know, it's not like I'm saying, John is saying I am Brahman so that John believes he's Brahman. No, a Brahman is Brahman. You are that.
Yeah.
As Maharaj would say, the spontaneous conviction, you don't sit there and say, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman, I'm a woman. You react, you respond as a woman. Well, you are Brahman. And the spontaneous conviction is that you're not a man or woman, you're absolute Brahman.
I think he also said one time it's like an invitation to the invisible listener when you
Absolutely.
repeat that mantra.
Absolutely.
Like you're inviting the invisible listener to pay attention.
Yes. To pay attention to the illusory kind of movement that's appearing in the still silence that you are. You're inviting the attention of the invisible listener, invisible, anonymous, unidentified identity that seemingly has identified with an identity that is not true. You're refreshing your memories, meaning I am not this body, I was not body, I'm not going to remain body. I never was a body.
Right. Yeah.
I can't be a body. And I know this by using body. I sense that formless sense of presence. I feel that sense of presence that is kind of the aroma of myself through the instrument of body. So therefore, all of these ideas and beliefs and concepts that are constructing this form-type world, this manifestation, and the unmanifest.
Yeah. Yeah, that's good. It's not like a character trying to be something it's not, or trying
Exactly.
to reach some kind of, I don't know, some kind of level that it doesn't already have.
Just the opposite. And Maharaj has said this before. If you're an actor doing your role 100%, but knowing it's a role,
Yeah.
instead of being the actor, the role, you know, here I am, Sergeant whatever, and I'm believing myself to be the actor guy who's playing Sergeant whatever. No, it's the actor who's playing the Sergeant whatever.
Mhm.
You know, it's not it's a character, and you're playing the role.
Right.
But the character is not playing the actor. The character is believing that they're playing the actor. The character, John, says, okay, I need to get to that. At first, I need to get to that peaceful place. My mind is so very, very busy. I need to get to that peaceful place. And that peaceful place is my own self when I'm not concentrating and paying attention to the false John and all the ideas and beliefs that may be flowing through mind identified with as John's thoughts.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, the thoughts keep coming, and sometimes, just that awareness doesn't necessarily stop the thought, though. But I guess it's more or less the identification with it being my thoughts, which is not the case. It's just
And they will stop after you have maintained your selfless self. The thoughts are ignored because you're remaining with your selfless self, and you'll see again, the mind only presents ideas of beliefs of what it knows. It came after your spontaneous presence. It appeared upon your spontaneous presence, and it's interpreting the false world. That's what it does. It's the interpreter of the false world. So therefore, all the thoughts, all the beliefs, all the everything that it sends to you, the selfless self, are ignored, discarded. Your attention is on yourself. These come and go. And eventually the body factory of thoughts, this mind, ego, intellect, the thoughts cease. It goes into your natural state because you're no longer paying attention to the things that have appeared on your spontaneous presence. You're only paying attention to your own selfless self.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point, what you just said. Just the mind is running because it's just so mixed in with this whole illusory world, or our own creation or whatever. And when that breaks down, then there's nothing for the mind to really be thinking about any longer.
Exactly.
So it stops. Yeah, the thoughts come to an end.
Exactly. That's the natural state. Thinking is not the natural state.
Right. Well, it seems like it's necessary to destroy the foundation of thoughts, which is the belief in that,
The belief that I am somebody else having these thoughts, needing to do these things in this world that I perceive myself being in.
Yeah, but that's kind of the bad side of practice, because, it's like, well, who's practicing? You know what I mean? Because if you are the self, there's no practice. There's just being.
Yeah, when you know yourself in a real sense, these questions won't come.
Yeah.
You'll have the spontaneous conviction through mantra, continually being with your selfless self through mantra, acting in that way in every single moment, as long as there's the belief that there's an actor. And then that also disappears. I think Maharaj says, concentrate on the concentrator until the concentrator disappears. The reason the concentrator disappears is because there's nothing other than that.
Mm. Yeah, you get it down to the indestructible. All the destructible parts can fall away, and then there's only the indestructible.
There's only you. Where all experience dissolves and ends, there you are. The fire with the ash on top, we just have to remove this ash, and the mantra removes the ash. And the ash is all the false beliefs, like Maharaj says, this circle that you have come about in mind, ego, intellect, body, and all of these, has to break out of the circle. Mm. You are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. And the mantra allows you to see this, allows you to see clearly that you are not body, you were not body, you're not going to remain the body. Inviting the attention of the invisible listener that you are, so it can see all these things that have been added on to its spontaneous presence. It being you, that. You are the selfless self. Like Maharaj says, except your selfless self, there is no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no Master. Nothing is there. You are all there is. Everything that appears upon your spontaneous presence is absolutely illusion. Any thoughts about the illusion are discarded because they're in the illusion. They're illusory thoughts. And every illusory thought is a thought about a point on the map, a me. And I am somebody else that's relating to a world based on here is me, and here are these other things. Rather than all is myself, and these are objects that are appearing in that cell, on that spontaneous presence.
Yeah. Yeah, you know, I just heard a talk by a scientist, and he said the whole universe is mental. It's all a mental construction. I mean, you know, he's a well-respected scientist. He was talking about it and said, you know, it's a projection. And you know, this is kind of becoming more the scientific, you know, in the scientific world, they're starting to discover, you know, that. So it was interesting. It was one of those YouTube things, and it made a lot of sense. I said, "Well, where have I heard that before?"
Indeed, yeah. Prior to beingness and after leaving the body, how are you?
Yeah.
One word that really came out to me this week, you know, every so often I read a little bit of Selfless Self, and just the word holder, presence, my presence, or, you know, and then reading Selfless Self, you know, like my presence is also the same thing as pure consciousness. It's the holder of my own body, mind, plus the world. So it's like, and that presence, that's who I am. That's my true nature. And it holds everything else, everything that happens in it, including myself. You know, it's what I'm thinking, what I'm feeling, what I'm doing. You know, and I keep, you know, like it keeps coming, every now and then I get this real sort of clear understanding that mantra is very, very important, because it keeps me from getting mixed up in this whole thing. You know, it's like, it's because it's very, you know, like whatever I'm feeling or thinking or doing at any given moment, sometimes it's very easy to identify with that. And that mantra kind of breaks that down. It's like, I know that Ranjit used to say, don't take the touch, don't take the touch, you know, be in the water, but don't get wet, don't take the touch, you know, that's a hard thing to do. When, you know, like if you do something wrong, or if you say something wrong, or if you get into an argument or whatever, you know, like there's a certain kind of self-consciousness, which means there's a somebody there that's you're identifying with. And, you know, like one time I heard Ranjit speak about, I don't know exactly what he said, but it was something like, you know, if you commit a murder and you go to the gallows, just know that you didn't do it. I don't know, something like that. You know, like, you know, you know, it's, I have nothing to do with this kind of thing. And, you know, that's, you know, breaking that down is, you know, really, I think, what in this whole process is about, that identification with the doer. I guess it's simply the play of, you know, like the attributes. It's the play of the conditioning, the play of the gunas, whatever. You know, each body form has a certain combination of all these things, and it kind of like acts. I guess it's just consciousness playing through that body form, acting this out. But we're not the actor, correct? I mean, it's.
Well, again, and there's only because it felt mental prior to beingness and after leaving the body. That's the state. What can you say about that?
Nothing. Yeah.
Because all of these are concepts to explain the nothing to your own self, inviting the attention of the invisible listener. And they're good concepts and they do make sense. But the idea is that all of these things are added on, and they're only concepts to point to that space where the mind cannot be.
Yeah. That's why Maharaj says, stay with prior to beingness.
Exactly. And that's the mantra, because the mantra, you're remaining with your selfless self. So the illusory world is coming and going. You're remaining with your selfless self. And also, you know, you were talking about emotions. If emotions come through, then, you know, if you've listened to Maharaj enough, or you read Selfless Self, and it's like, okay, feelings come and go, be with the feeler. Who's the feeler? Not the feelings, but the feeler. depression, loss of peace. Who is this going through? That again brings you back, because if you say like that these emotions and such, then you're creating an I am somebody else and a conceptual world of emotions appearing to someone, and a reason why these emotions are appearing, and a person they're appearing to, or the I am somebody else. But the idea is to take yourself out of that and go back to the very basics. Like Maharaj says, it's your feeling, not the feelings, but the feeler, the one that's feeling these feelings. The feelings are unimportant. Concentrating on the center, you, that's feeling this, using body form, but universally, without any kind of concept, without anything. And so you listen to that, you know, those little snippets that Maharaj says are for you during the day. Different various things pop up, and mantra then allows you to have no experience, no experiencer created, no concepts or conceptual world was added on to the formless you.
Another word that stuck out for me is the word power. And so, you know, the holder, that sense that this is all contained in me as selfless self, this whole thing, you know, us talking right now, everything, just, and it's all an appearance, you know, it's an appearance in that. It's like the dream, I guess, of whatever. Also the word that came through was the word power. Like, this whole thing is my power, not me as, you know, it's just, I am that power that's making this whole thing generate,
yes.
Making this whole thing happen.
Yes.
You know, that was another word that really just kind of like rang out to me.
Like Maharaj says, if you take the presence out of this body or those bodies, this dead body, that's the power. The holder of the body is the presence that's making the movements. Who's moving the hands? Who's listening through the ears? Who's smelling through the nose? Who's seeing through the eyes? That you are. That selfless self. The power that's moving, the giving the energy, the power that's providing these things, all of that is arising on you, through you. The holder of the body, the presence, is holding the body for a time, and then not holding the body, but still everywhere. The power is movement, moving the hands. Maharaj says, like, who's moving the hands? Who's lifting the arm? That power, that you are, that formlessness. Take the presence out of the body for even one moment. And even if you you could do this intellectually, the next time you're in a group of people and they're talking and all of this, just in your mind, remove the presence from each one and then see, like, okay, all of this conversation was just the presence, because when the presence is removed from the body, it's gone. The body is dead body. So you're in a group of a whole bunch of people, everybody's talking, going back and forth, presence is removed from the body, and boop, they're gone. So that person can't be talking to you. It's the power, the energy, the holder of the body that's speaking to you. That you are.
That's a good way of good exercise, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then you'll see, because you'll see that, you know, even when you're doing your weddings, the different people that are there and they're all communicating and doing all that, just mentally say, okay, if the presence was pulled from these bodies, nothing's there, the dead body. So that presence, that I am, the selfless self, is who I'm speaking to in each one of these forms. And knowing this, behaving and creating in that way. Because you're projecting the world based on the ideas, beliefs, and concepts that you're holding about yourself as how you're seeing, how you're perceiving. That's why Maharaj says, if I am Brahmin, live like a Brahmin. I know that all the forms that are in front of me, whether they're giving me a hard time or whether they're praising me or whether they're saying I'm doing a terrible job, it's myself. It's the power of the energy. The presence is myself. It's flavored a little differently, you know, but it's just myself. And then I see that even this form that I used to believe was myself, that's interacting with these other forms that I thought were others, now that I know that that's myself in those forms, then obviously that's myself here in this form, and I am not in it at all in that way. Because it's a manifestation occurring inside the unmanifest that I am. It's the production on the stage, and I'm in the audience. I used to think I was on stage with one of the characters, but now I know I'm not.
So now you're the witness of the knower of.
You are.
The formless knower. Right?
Absolutely. All of this is occurring in form, and you're the formless knower. So you observe that you are seeing now that this group, these people that you were interacting with, some people are enjoying what you're doing, some people are not, some people are giving advice, some people are kind of pain. But it's, if you withdrew the presence from all those forms, they're all dead bodies. So that, therefore, that presence, that formlessness is acting through form. And it's only one, because formless, you can't cut it up. We already said space in the kitchen, space in the bathroom, it's all space. So if it's formless, then it can't be divided. It's all your own selfless self.
That makes it, you know, like I think we were talking about this last week, this point came up, and it really makes the world much less hostile, or there's just really...
The world is you.
You know, it really, you kind of embrace it, kind of in a sense, you know. You know,
and that's when Maharaj says it gets very, very, very fun. The fun in it, because even the people that are out there that are acting against or whatever, it's all a fun. It's all a form playing in the formlessness that you are, and you're the one that's powering all the energy of all the different things that are out there moving about.
Yeah.
Oh, let's see.
I had a long phone conversation just this evening before dinner, and with a person that a family member that I have a lot, you know, opposite political views, and you know, I didn't say anything, I didn't get hooked, and it was beautiful. You know, it really was. It was selfless self being there.
Yes, indeed.
And it made a huge difference. It was really, really nice.
And Keith, I'm reading, it says, so are we ultimately alone or never alone or neither? I can see that this is a question based on concept. So in an answer, conceptual form can't really come from outside, I guess, but I can sometimes see that the question wouldn't arise if I am naturally being myself. Yeah, no question would arise unless you are having a belief that there's a questioner and that there's somebody who can answer a question. You know, the only reason you ask a question is because you're posing yourself in body form and asking a question to some other form that you believe is going to provide an answer for that question. So therefore, there's a duality when there isn't one, and it's created with, I am somebody else, I'm a questioner asking a question. The truth is, you are the questioner and the answer in both the body forms that you're seeing and perceiving and believing yourself to be or not.
It's like you have to believe in some kind of separation for there to be a question and an answer.
You have to believe in a you. That's the first thing. If there's no I am somebody else, then there's no other. You're just speaking because you don't have a position that you're speaking from. And it's just, that is the root. You know, Nisargadatta Maharaj says, that's the root. The I am somebody else. That belief. And that belief is erased by mantra because you start to see that this mind will slow down. This mind that you believe is your thoughts and your thinking, and then even you start to believe, well, I'm not my mind, but I'm still here that's believing that this is not my mind. Mantra erases that concept. It erases all the concepts without adding additional concepts on.
So even if, you know, there's, let's say, conflict or pain within this drama, it's also, it sort of shifts the ground of being of that, because then it's not seen as, you know, like a fight to the death or something. You know,
There's no conflict at all.
Yeah.
There's just no conflict at all. There's no, because there's not a you. In order to have a conflict, you have to have two sides. There isn't a side here. It's like one-handed clapping, you know, or ping pong, and there's nobody on the other side. You're just hitting and nothing's going on. Okay.
Yeah.
Without an I am somebody else, there is no world, because there's no you. Again, there's no, here's me, and this is how this object out here relates to me. You know, here's John, and here's a table. Here's John, and here's a picture. Here's John, and here's a sink. All of these are objects relating to a John. When there is no idea or belief or concept about myself in form, and I'm just in that natural state, formlessly aware, then there's no position that I'm taking in relation to any objects, because all of the objects, including this body, are appearing inside my selfless self.
Yeah, that's a really important thing to get, you know, to really realize.
Yeah,
Mantra.
definitely.
Yeah.
Mantra. And like Maharaj says, mantra is not just sitting, you know, I think it was not just reciting, but the mantra is inviting attention of the invisible listener, and you just concentrate. You know, breathing in one part, breathing out the other part, concentrating on the mantra and the concentrator that's concentrating on the mantra, rather than the attention on the objects and the things that are appearing on the spontaneous presence. You don't get involved in all of that, all of what's going on out there, and yet you're still here, and you see that this form moves along quite nicely without any additional, I need to do this or I need to do that. I think we spoke about before, making a sandwich. You just mantra, make a sandwich. It's still happening. Mantra, take a shower. Mantra, brushing the teeth. However, driving in traffic, using mantra, just keeping with your selfless self. Especially when things start to go and you start to feel the body even has a sensation of like, whoo, upsetness. Mantra, because you'll start to see that you're separate from all of that. What the body goes through has really no bearing on you.
Yeah, a lot of the conflicts that you know, the so-called, you know, being somebody else and getting in a conflict, all that is what causes distress in the body too. So
yeah, and there has to be an I am somebody else, a point of view, a point on the map that is being bothered. Without that, it's just not that way. And when it does, then there's still a sense of I am somebody else. Like Maharaj says, the pressure of body knowledge. Because over time, impressions of body knowledge, I am this body, I'm doing these things, I have to do this to keep going, and all this kind of stuff. That's impressed. Now, with mantra, you're impressing your true nature. And not allowing anything else to cover that up. And when the pressure of body knowledge comes, mantra is the key. Pressure of body knowledge is mind, ego, intellect, thinking, and like you said, conflict and all of this. But there is no conflict. There's no one to be conflicting with or to be bothering or you being bothered by. Unless there's an I am somebody else that's taken a position. And that's it. Again, like Nisargadatta Maharaj says, the neighbor's child. Neighbor's child is sick, maybe even dying. It's very sad, but you're not taking the touch of, oh my God, it's my child. You know, it's not, you can feel something for this, just like this body form. Okay, I take care of this body. Just like Maharaj says, you take care of the clothes. Clothes are getting dirty, you wash them. If they get ripped, you throw them out, this and that. For body, if you get an injury, you go to the doctor. You get these things. If you have heart problems, whatever, you go to the doctor. You take care of these things. But it's not so impressing on you that, oh my God, this body, when it finishes, I'm finished. Because there's not a sense of this connection anymore. The formless can survive whether it's in form or without form. It just is. It can't be divided because it's formless. You know, even the people that say they have individual souls, but the soul is a formless kind of a thing, and if the whole thing is formless, then all these little formlessness with the big formlessness, how does that happen? It's just formlessness.
Yeah. The individual soul seems like a story they tell because you don't want to give up the individuality, and that's supposed to survive the death of the body, because
Indeed.
that's another way of continuing the I am somebody.
Exactly. And there never was that. See, if there ever was an I am somebody else for real, then you might have some kind of an individuality. But there never was. It's a form and a belief. That's the only thing that's separating you. A belief in this form, that I'm in this form, that this limited form is myself. But it's just not true. And mantra, and deeply the spontaneous presence that's felt through body, that you feel that. And that is that's that formless knowingness, because you're even knowing the sense of presence. You use body form to know the sense of presence. Without the body form, there's no instrument that can know this sense of presence. But this sense of presence that you are the knower of, and that's a formless knower, formless knowledge. And again, Maharaj says, knowledge just means to identify yourself in a real sense. Through mantra, you erase all the different things that are covering you so that you can be with your own selfless self. I mean, there's a very strong presence that you know that presence, and you're using body to know that presence. When the body is no longer here, you won't know the presence, but that presence is still always there. Sometimes what Nisargadatta says is conceptually contradictory. For instance, sometimes he says there is no individual, and sometimes that this is my own place. What is mine and was mine even when God was not. Of course, it is a very tiny little thing, a speck. Since I am, the fact of being, I wonder what he means by point of speck. The presence is just that, you know, he talks about the I am, diving into the I am. That sense of presence, the I am. Maharaj talks about the selfless self and says the presence many, many times in many, many different ways. The whole idea is to know yourself in a real sense. Mantra allows all these things to be discarded, 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 until you know yourself. There is no individuality other than the belief in individuality. And in reality, it's a singularity. There is no individuality because it's just one. And it's just one because you know yourself in a real sense. And as Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with the I am, stay with the I am, stay with the I am, and then realize you're not the I am because you're actually sensing, feeling, experiencing the I am. So you can't be that. You're the knower, the formless knower of this formless sense of presence. Maharaj says the entire world appears upon your spontaneous presence. The speck is just spontaneous presence. This is arising from that. All this whole world, just like the dream world, it's one speck of consciousness, and it totally, completely creates an entire dream world from just dream world is created. When you dream, you don't lay down and then, you know, it takes 7 days to create your dream world of like, okay, now we have Earth, then we'll put some lakes, then we'll put some birds. No, it's spontaneous. And that is the spontaneous reality. The same consciousness that has created the dream world is creating the waking state. They're both the same. Oh, you know what? I put on Mixler. I have to turn it off. Hold on. That was the bhajans. when I went to get the link, I was actually on the on the Mixler. I was like, "What is that?" And then yeah.
We didn't hear it.
Oh, you didn't hear the bhajans?
No.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I started to hear them.
Oh.
I guess because they're not coming through the speaker and they're just coming through the headphones from here.
Oh, okay.
But when I had, put Mixler Ranjit Ashram, it was still up in Google, and they're doing their morning bhajans right now.
Oh, yeah, quite a bit of time in between there.
Yes.
Huh.
Like a timeless open speck. But it's because it's like Maharaj says, it's just I without anything. That's the whole dream world. You lay down, boom, instantly a world is created. Here, the same thing. It's the same consciousness that you are using to create the dream world and the waking state, with the real world, if you want to call it that. Both are false worlds appearing in consciousness that's appearing in you.
So I guess after the body goes, then there's no knowing because there's nothing to know.
Once you leave the body, you're speaking about, or
Yeah.
you're the formless knower with nothing to know. There will be no objects that are appearing in consciousness because there's no body form that you can be using to perceive any objects in space. Basically, the same way.
Yeah. But some people talk about the subtle world or something like that, the subtle
World is thought.
thought. Yeah. But that's not even there either because there's nothing thinking,
Well, all of those subtle bodies came along with the idea of a body. That's the mind, ego, intellect that came along with the body.
Right.
With the idea and belief in the body came mind, ego, intellect as functional organs, just like all the other organs that are in the body, the heart, the lungs, and all of this, came along with the body. When the body is no more, there won't be those functional organs anymore. But whatever you're saying, it's like the spontaneous presence appeared and, like Maharaj says, clicked with the body. And then when it, quote, unclicks with the body, that's it. There's no but it's still there, here and there, prior to beingness and after leaving the body. Nisargadatta Maharaj uses the same thing with the fire and the stick. You click, you see fire. Blow it out, nothing's died, nothing's gone anywhere. It's just, it was here, it's not. But all of this is appearing on your spontaneous presence, this entire illusory world. Because when you know yourself in a real sense as the formlessness that this form world is coming from, that you are animating all of this, as we spoke about, the power, the energy that you are that's moving all of this around. You have tremendous power. Maharaj says this all the time. You have tremendous power. And your belief is even more tremendous because you can create concept after concept after concept after concept and go further and further and further away from your selfless self. And even when you know yourself in a real sense, like Maharaj says, and there's not concentration and bhajan and these sort of things, you can lose that. You can be thrown back into the ditch of the illusory world. Maharaj gave an example of somebody who was really, really, really doing well. Everything was going good. And then they decided to get involved in politics. And they totally lost it because they started believing in this illusory world, that there was something to be gained, a political position to be gained. That all of this came in and started impressing the body knowledge of, I am somebody else who needs to achieve something. I guess there could be temporarily, as we speak and conceive, say there is a false difference between the concept of nothing and being that is nothing in particular. I mean, there's nothing. You're seeing all the things that are not. You're perceiving all the things that are not. But the perceiver that's perceiving these things that are not is, and is the only reality. Without this perception, without this perceiver, there could not be perception of anything, because there you are. All the things that are being perceived, that are appearing on spontaneous presence, are not, and you alone are. But you're not what you think yourself to be. You're not in body form. You're not a body. You're not an individual. You're a formless knower that all of this is appearing in and on and through, and you are still moving about and doing all these things. You can say that you're everybody or you're nobody, either one.
Yeah, that was the question I asked Ranjit many years ago. Said he used to say sometimes that you are nothing, then he'd sometimes just say you are everything.
Yeah.
Really kind of a different. Yeah.
And by being nothing, you are everything. When you try to be a particular something, then you can't be, as you are, everything, because you've limited yourself to a particular something. And that particular something is appearing on your spontaneous presence, and then you're believing that this limited something is myself. But when you're not, when that I am somebody else doesn't arise, then you are everything. You are everything anyway. It's only the separation through an idea or belief of I am somebody else that limit the limitless. The putting a box in the space and saying that the space in the box is separate from the space all around it. And that's why Maharaj says, listener and speaker, there's no difference between you and I, just these body forms. He says that over and over again. The body form that you're perceiving is the only thing that seemingly is separating the formlessness of these two bodies. But again, in the exercise that we talked about, pulling the presence and seeing, okay, this body, boom, it's just dead body. Okay, but that formless presence that I am is this body and in that body and in all these bodies. And then with come the bodies have mind, ego, intellect. So the formless presence is in the bodies. Mind, ego, intellect for each body is giving this kind of a world perception and view. Excuse me.
It's kind of funny because, you know, the samadhi of Siddha Rameshwara Maharaj in Mumbai, it's in a small, it's kind of like a suburb called Walkeshwar, and it's right on the ocean. And right next to it, they have a cremation ground. So, you know, we'd be there singing the bhajans with all the, you know, with all these bodies burning right next door.
Wow.
I'd say it was really something. And, you know, you could go over there and just, I mean, you could just, because once, you know, the body's just about totally consumed by the fire, the family kind of like drifts off, and then they just are there, you know, so you can just step over there and take a look, you know, and it's just really, you know, it really tells you something about what this body is, kind of. It's really a good reminder. Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah, the 5 elements in a ball of goo, animated by the selfless self, powered by the selfless self, and powered by the selfless self through the different gunas like they talk about. And then more concepts are coming in that way. But it's all of this form world is appearing on the formless, in the formless. And when you know yourself in the real sense and the mind presents these ideas and concepts, what? How? No attention. You're totally unconcerned with the world because the world is appearing on your spontaneous presence. And when this is seen, when this is known, then the world loses its bite completely. There's nothing. You're the holder of the body, but you're not held by the body. In bondage, so to speak. I tend to be philosophical, and I kind of love the fact that non-dual sense or reality is free of the law of non-contradiction, which says no thing can be two different things at the same time in the same sense. This law is based on thought and is very convincing to be true according to thought, but I can't be limited to a law and can't be pegged. Yeah, again, just knowing yourself in a real sense. That's just truly the key. And the key to do that is not. Because otherwise, you know, any concept, every concept believed in is going to create this new conceptual world, these new conceptual ideas. Just like, science and talking about what is it called? What's the type of science that's like spirituality? I forget. But there's some kind of science that's like, talking about like the whole world is black hole and it's all of this kind of stuff. But
quantum physics?
Quantum physics, thank you. Yes. Mm-hmm. But see, I can get lost in that. I can start also to believe something and enjoy the belief, because then that belief is something that allows my mind to continue working, that allows that I am somebody else, that egoistic sense of self that's separate, allows it to continue working with new ideas that it believes in and new truths, rather than idealist, formless, nothing. Knowing myself in a real sense has to be the single most important thing, always mantra. I can still look at different news things or whatever, but I know it's absolutely false. I know that all the scientists in the whole world are appearing on my spontaneous presence. I know all the saints in the whole world are appearing on my spontaneous presence. I know all the sinners in the whole world are appearing on my spontaneous presence. All the wars that are occurring are appearing on my spontaneous presence. All the really wonderful things that are happening in the world are appearing on my spontaneous presence. And all the really terrible, horrible, evil, disgusting things in the world are also appearing on my spontaneous presence. And all of it is form appearing in the formless.
It has reality only as an appearance. It's the shadow, you know, the shadow of reality.
Hmm. You know yourself as the light that's casting the shadow.
One of the things that I found, you know, like I was reading Self to Self this week, and it was Maharaj speaks. He says, don't ignore the reality because of pressures from external forces, invisible forces. And he goes into a whole list of all different kinds of forces. And it's really, I mean, they're very subtle, you know, spiritual, physical, mental, logical, intellectual forces that can distract you, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought to mind which St. Paul had said, I forget in which particular epistle, but, you know, he said our struggle is not against, he said our struggle is against, you know, thrones and dominations and principalities. Whatever. You know, it's just kind of interesting. You know, there's, you know, he was kind of getting in the same direction, I think, basically. Well, one of the things with, you know, Kathleen, with Christianity is this whole resurrection of the body. You know, it really doesn't let you let it go, kind of. You know, it's one thing that the whole thing about the resurrection of the body, the human body. I mean, it just, you know, when you really think about it, it doesn't really. It just, you know, it's like, how can that possibly, with all of, you know, the millions of people who have walked this earth, and then what do you do with all these bodies coming back to life, kind of? It's like, you know, crazy.
But it's a different kind of body, though, I think, isn't it?
The spiritual body, the Holy Spirit, yeah. You know, Jesus was crucified in the flesh and then came in the Holy Spirit, the spiritual body, the presence.
Yeah, that's the way to understand the actual resurrection. You know, like it's that sort of freedom from the body, basically, one's realization of oneself as being spirit. But I know that Christianity is actually the actual body itself is supposed to.
The mystical body of Christ. You know that concept?
I'm sorry, yeah.
The mystical body of Christ, which is everyone. It's sort of the idea that everything is contained in this mystical body, you know. It's actually non-separation. Because everybody's like a cell, like you have a cell in your body, it's part of the body, and all the, I don't know.
Yeah, you're talking about when they talk about the body of Christ.
Yeah.
And that we're all in the body of Christ is the same as the selfless self.
Exactly, yeah.
We're all in that, the body of Christ.
Right.
Christ is just another name for your spontaneous presence. Brahman, Atman, Paramatman, God, Buddha, Christ, Krishna. All of these are just names that are given to that spontaneous presence that you are.
Right. And that no one will achieve unless it comes through me, you know, that whole thing. But he's not talking about me, the person. He's talking
that's the real key there. Because I have friends who say, well, Jesus said, I am the way, the truth, and the life, or whatever. No one gets to the Father except through me. Well, of course, because he's speaking from that spontaneous presence. He's speaking from that state, that absolute realization that unless you come through this presence that has been labeled Christ, that has been labeled all these things, he is the way, the truth, and the life.
Right.
That presence is the way, the truth, and the life. Nisargadatta Maharaj says, remain with the I am, and it opens up all his secrets. And Jesus says, I am the way, the truth, and the life. If you want to get to the Father, to have eternal life, you have to come through me. How and why? Because you have to know yourself in a real sense.
Right.
Without body form. You were not body, you are not body, you're not going to remain the body. Body is not your identity. And remember, too, when Jesus was saying, I am, before Abraham was, I am, he's speaking as that I am state from that presence. But the people were like, hey, we're throwing stones at you because you're trying to say you're God. No, he's not saying he's God. It's God speaking to you. Hello.
And that you're also that God, not
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Paul says the same thing when he says, I no longer live, it's Christ that lives in me. He understood. I don't know how it got twisted or how they talked or what they might have done, but they were expressing.
Politics.
they were expressing from their selfless self. I can read the Bible in many different parts and totally understand that, like Maharaj says, it's the reader's story. These were the selfless self speaking through the form of Paul, speaking through the form of Jesus. All of this was just you.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
It got corrupted somehow because, when more people came in, then they had an institution, and then they need money to keep it going, and then you know what I mean?
Well, the I am somebody else idea wants to stay no matter what. Maharaj talks about that love to be. And Ramakat Maharaj talks about the ants. And I am somebody else wants to plant its flag and stay, because when the selfless self knows itself in body form, it believes that when this body form leaves, I'm done. And until it realizes, no, this is not the case, it's going to fight to stay in this body form and to stay alive, because it doesn't know itself in a real sense. It truly believes it's in the body that it's believing itself to be, and has to fight for that, because otherwise it's finished. And all of these then religions, the main thing about that is, if I'm right, you're wrong. But that's crazy, because it's an entire illusory world. There is no right and wrong. There are different concepts that, when believed in, the selfless self gets further and further and further away from itself, to the point where you have crusades and wars and all this kind of stuff, because my belief is better than your belief, but both beliefs are in the illusory world.
Yeah, it's like red is better than green,
Indeed. Instead of, like Maharaj says, that's the key. If everyone would just remain with their own selfless self, or even disregard others. Just because if I'm a devout Christian and I enjoy Christianity and I'm doing this, it's kind of cool, actually, because Vikings, I'm starting to watch this series, and there is something about that where, like, the Vikings have their gods and the Christians have their gods, but these two guys become friends and sort of are accepting of each other, and that's the end of the conflict. It's only when I'm right and you're wrong that there's going to be a conflict.
Right.
But when like Maharaj says, forget about others, forget about who else is realized, forget about who else is enlightened. Just concentrate on your own self.
Sure.
And if you have that spontaneous peace, that spontaneous happiness, that spontaneous joy, you're tension-free, okay. You know yourself in a real sense. And whether 100,000 other people are doing something different doesn't bother you at all, because you know yourself in a real sense. It's only when the I am somebody else wants to protect that there's going to be a conflict. And the selfless self, in the form of the person, it needs to prove itself. And it's all about survival.
And avoiding damnation.
Well, again, another concept. And a concept that is believed in. If it's believed in, you have the power to create.
It goes in so deep, in your conditioning. It's like, the idea of, you have to keep on, doing the mantra and things like that to overcome the fact that you did accept that at some point,
Well, when you know yourself in a real sense, all these ideas. I remember I told my friend Don, who told me that when I went to Maharaj that I would burn in hell. And I said, no, but you don't understand. I've met my formless self in form of Maharaj, who told me that, yes, that formless self that you're starting to see yourself as, that's the truth. So how's the devil going to poke me with pitchfork if I'm formless? And the devil and all this creation is appearing on my spontaneous presence just as if it was a dream. Yeah. It's not real.
Yeah.
Yet, like we say, your power is immense, and ideas and concepts believed in can create a new something.
Yeah, that somebody once asked me, well, is there a devil? And my only answer was no. But what I really should have said, well, it's as real as you are, because
yeah, the entire world is an illusory world.
That would have been a non-compassionate answer, because then, you know what I mean? It's like some people, they just want to, it's true on one level, it isn't, something, but yet, we're making it that way, and our thoughts are powerful.
Every untrue belief that you believe in with the power of your own self can appear to be real and appear to be really real.
Yeah. Yeah, that is scary, the power.
Sure.
Yeah. And sometimes we don't even realize that we're creating it. You know what I mean? It's like it becomes so habitual that, this me concept that, we don't even see that the power of belief is what's creating.
Well, again, too, and without thinking about creation, you create an entire dream world and move all your people around and do all the things that you do in the dream world.
Right.
You didn't, like Maharaj says, you didn't pick what dream and what this dream and that dream. It's all spontaneous.
Right.
Some sentences from like John's Gospel that, that I really think hits the nail on the head, like Jesus says, I only say what I hear the Father saying, I only do what I see the Father doing.
Absolutely.
It's like that so that direct, selfless self doing and speaking, kind of like.
Exactly.
He's totally out of the picture as personality.
Of myself, I am nothing. The Father doeth the works. I mean, it couldn't be any more clear. It blows my mind. But again, that is as it is, and the selfless self believing whatever it wants to believe in that. But yes, everything is, of myself, I'm nothing. The Father doeth the works. It means this fleshly form is nothing. The everything and all things is moving through and speaking and listening and doing all of these things. On heaven as it is in earth. Heaven, so to speak, this formlessness, this eternal reality, that all of this form is appearing in, this earth appearing in that heaven.
Good point, yeah.
Well, yeah, and there was also that the kingdom of heaven is spread out before you and you don't see it.
Yeah, I mean, all of these. And like Maharaj says, it's the reader's story. Nisargadatta Maharaj once told a guy who came to see him, read the Gita, the Bhagavad Gita, as if you are Krishna. Yeah. Forget about all the interpreting and all this kind of stuff. Read it. It's your story. And Maharaj, Ramakat Maharaj has said, it's the reader's story. You read this, it's like, oh, it's my story. And selfless self, when it doesn't have any ideas or beliefs about itself, can read these things and see the truth in what is being said, because you said it. And without an I am somebody else, beliefs and ideas, see, With an I am somebody else and conditioned mind, you can't sit there and read all these various religions' texts without some prejudice, without an I am somebody else that has an opinion or a belief about something. But the selfless self, on the other hand, the holder of the body, not being held or attached to the body or any of the body knowledge, can read cleanly its own story. You know, there are people right now that if you gave them selfless self, they either wouldn't understand it or would totally shut it after a couple of minutes and say, you're trying to tell me that I'm God, and that's a sin. Boom. Close the book. The reality is, once these concepts are erased, then you can feel and read, you know, oh, this is my story. Let's see. I once asked a physicist at a talk if he is absolutely sure the universe is expanding, and he said 99.9% sure. So I said, maybe it appears that way because of the way the body-mind is set up. As for strange phenomenon in this world, I can only fix it interesting and beautiful of the stuff that happens that are inexplicable. For instance, when Shoyam Drunkpa died at his cremation, a bunch of rainbows appeared in the sky. I have friends that were there and have pictures even. That's good.
Huh.
He was a Buddhist master. That was good. He was your own selfless self. You know, except your selfless self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master, nothing is there. All of this appearance is illusion appearing on your spontaneous presence. Except your selfless self, there's no God, no Brahman, no Paramatman, no master. That always has to be gone back to. That can kill all concepts. Like Maharaj says, in this one sentence, except your selfless self. There's no God, there's no Brahman, there's no Paramatman, there's no master. And what does that mean? The formless sense of presence that you are, that has been labeled master, God, Brahman, you are that. It's names given to the spontaneous, invisible, anonymous presence that you are. And the only thing is that the mind wants something. It wants to hold on to something. It wants to do something, but it's nothing. And mantra allows you to remain with your selfless self, the spontaneous presence that you are, the knower of this spontaneous presence. All of this world appears on that spontaneous presence. And it is everything that is the appearance is the something within the nothing. The nothing was there, something appeared, nothing will be continuing. Nothing, something, nothing. Just like the dream. Go to sleep, deep sleep, wake up. Just the stages. The one selfless self. The consciousness in the dream world, the consciousness in the waking world. It's both coming from the consciousness, the entire world. Dream and waking, no difference, because it's the same consciousness that's projecting both. The knowing yourself in a real sense is the key. Because the form world just won't make sense anymore. Like we said, you'll be talking and you'll know that if the presence that you are pulled away from these bodies, there'd be no speaking. Therefore, the speaker that's behind the eyes and ears of all these different folks that I believe are different and separate is the same. I know, you just know. And therefore, there's no conflict. Somebody can say, hey, you know, I don't like you. Okay, that's my own self in that form saying I don't like you, so that there can see if there's a reaction in this state. You know, there's no thought, no thought, no thought. Somebody says, you know what, I don't like you very much at all. No thought, no thought, no thought, because no, I am somebody else being created. And if it gets a little bit personal and you're desiring to see that this I am somebody else, it's starting to arise in the silent stillness that you are, then mantra is used.
That erasing of oneself is, I think, that's so important.
Absolutely.
You know, one time when I was leaving Mumbai, I asked Ranjiv, you know, I think I mentioned this before, what to practice, you know. It's kind of a stupid question after sitting there all the time. But anyway, I said, can you give me any advice? He said, yeah, practice I don't exist, you know.
Yep.
You know,
Yep.
basically that's the whole thing in a nutshell, you know. It's just erasing that somebody.
Yep.
Just erasing that. And that's all conceptual.
Yep. And with mantra in your daily experience, that's the key, because there can't be a separation of mantra and then my daily activities. It's like mantra through my daily activities until my daily activities are one and the same with the mantra, because there's not an I am somebody else, and it's just scenes with no content. I'm not pouring any content in. I'm here. I'm doing something. Another scene with different forms, and keep going and just listening and speaking, listening and speaking, listening and speaking.
You know, sometimes there's like a concern for others. Like, you know, I was talking to this photographer today, and, you know, he was telling me something about his story. And, you know, like if it's just in a dream, there's nothing, I mean, you know, there's sort of like kind of like a concern about, you know, like maybe you can tell him something or whatever. But, you know, I started to do that, but I noticed that I just didn't really, you know, he was just really into his own story. So I just stopped, you know, just let it go. But that arises too sometimes, but,
Yeah.
you know, yeah.
Like Maharaj says, how to respond, how not to respond, it's up to you.
Yeah.
But there's no force or pressure. Like a lot of times in social situations, somebody's talking and you immediately say, well, I have nothing to say, but I should say something so that this person thinks that I'm listening and we're carrying on the conversation. But it won't be like that. There's no self-consciousness of, you know, how, or even if I'm telling a story and this person, whether they're listening or whether they're understanding what's being said or anything like that, it's not like that, because there's no I am somebody else. There's no self-consciousness that is going to somehow judge the outcome of what's happening.
Sometimes it's just, you know, like just being with the person, basically. I don't know, you know, like, you know, just simply being there, basically. You know, being present to whatever they're saying, whatever, without trying to do anything, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Keeping empty, like it talks about, keeping empty so that you can be filled in the moment with whatever.
Yeah, just sometimes reflecting back, you know, just so you say, oh, I hear you saying this, you know.
Yeah.
Well, if that arises, if that's something, again, when you are empty, when you have cleared yourself and the selfless self is fully your experience, then there's nothing. So when you're speaking, it's just spontaneous speaking, and whatever's happening in the moment is exactly right.
No.
And you're not bringing any baggage of an I am somebody else into it, nor an outcome or anything like that. That's the true compassion. You're literally not separated from the one whom you're speaking to or who's speaking to you. There is no separation. Therefore, compassion is automatic because there's no separation between the two.
But that might take the form of some sort of, you know, standing firm about something, because seems sometimes like you get challenged to go against your conditioning. You know what I mean? If you're the kind of person who's always trying to please, the character's always trying to, please people or something, then, the awakeness might say, oh, why do I have to do that? And it might take a different form,
But see,
because,
there's no memory of a conditioning.
yeah,
There's nothing to compare it to. It's not like I've been conditioned to believe or do this, so I should react differently in this way. It's literally spontaneous. You're not even reacting or responding as a male or a female.
right,
It's just a spontaneous speaking.
right. And not censoring yourself in any, because that's
There's no thought.
right, yeah.
There's not. It's not like that. Because, again, the compassion is that there's no separation. You're speaking to your own self. You're listening to your own self, but without even the thought of that, because there's no thought for you to be a listener listening. There is just listening, and there is just speaking.
Ramana Maharshi, I know that in talks, when I read those dialogues, oftentimes he wouldn't respond to a question. He'd just be in silence. He'd look out of the window or something, and then maybe sometimes he'd later respond, or somebody said something or something happened. He said, "There's your answer," or he really wasn't shoving things around as if somebody.
Exactly.
It was just kind of like really happening.
Because, and as Maharaja says, it gets, you see the fun in it. You're communicating, a two-way communication with your own selfless self through the projection. You are projecting. And all of this is projected. So you're dialoguing with yourself, and it's not just form of people. It could be activity going on outside. All of this is just relating. It's just projecting. It's only you. And you're seeing this deeper and deeper and deeper and deeper, that you're just speaking and listening, and it's only you. That there is no other, there is no form, there is no I am somebody else, and therefore it's the space talking to space. And perceiving in different forms, speaking, but there's no urgency in anything, because it's only you. And think about, too, pride and all this. How are you going to have pride? It's only you. It's just you. Everything is you. Your boss is you. The people you meet on the traffic are you. The people you meet in the mall are you. Your customers are you. Everything is you. And it's just recognition in the projection at first, and then there's not even a recognition in the projection, because there's no point from where it's coming. It's just space. Space looking at hands with no identity that these are my hands. Just hands. Space looking at hands. Space looking at other things. Different various, and talking and all of this, but it's just you. And the person that you don't like is you, and the mind stream is the same, because it's all you. So the way that story is created in that other individual, so to speak, is the mind train that's identified with that I don't like them or they don't like me, and the seeming response based on a concept that is not true.
And that perpetuates the whole situation, because it's like, once you create that separation, then you know.
Because it's you, and you want to know yourself in a real sense, so you'll use the objects of the world to grind you.
Yeah, it feels like there's a lot of grinding.
Then there's a lot of you.
I know.
But I mean, I'm like, there's still a lot of I am somebody else if there's grinding, because you cease grinding when you cease being someone that needs grinding. your world. It's just totally different because there's no you. There's no protecting. There's no point of view. There's no, oh, I don't like this, or oh, I don't like this, or let me take a strong stance about this. It's an illusion.
Yeah.
Without thinking, without saying it's an illusion, this is seen. The entire world is projected on my spontaneous presence. I'm totally unconcerned with the world. Regardless of how terrible the world may be being told to me to be, it is not I am. And as soon as I believe, oh yeah, you're right. It's terrible, these things that are happening in the world today and how horrible, I'm believing in it. And the concepts are coming. And I'm creating, I think Nisargadatta Maharaj says, you speak a word, it becomes a world. And you live in it.
Yeah.
That's why that silence, which is silence, can still be speaking. Silence is in the mind. There's no idea of an I am somebody else with any positions relating to anything, and there's just a flowing and a speaking and listening and speaking and listening. And again, it's all you. The next time you're involved with somebody and they're giving you a hard time, or pull the presence mentally, pull the presence away and understand that that's myself.
Yeah, that's a challenge sometimes because for me, it's just like, I don't want to be that, I could see certain people are a certain way and I'm like, oh boy, I don't want to associate with that. But at the same time, if that's myself, and that's in me too.
Well, it's all you.
Yeah.
And it's all you using that to grind off, all the layers of illusory stuff.
All right.
That's what it talks about. The world is your guru. I mean, Ramakant Maharaj is the guru.
Right.
But they say the world is your guru because anything that's rubbing you like a sandpaper, that's what it's doing. It's getting rid of, if there's polish on the table and you're sanding it, you're trying to get rid of that polish and then get rid down to the base, the natural wood or the natural state. And that's what mantra is doing. That's what your everyday experience. You believe you're living a life in a world and that you're having experiences, but the truth is you're creating for yourself opportunities for you to hold and be with your own selfless self and not be with the illusory world. And the more characters that are coming, that your illusory thinking is thinking that they're against you, it's to dissolve those things you're holding on to about yourself that is causing you to separate from the reality.
Yeah.
You like the gold being purified in the fire, and
Exactly.
it's like we throw in gasoline on the fire.
Exactly.
I know. Yeah, it's like by inviting the listener in the self. It's like, oh boy, what am I getting myself in for now? Because there could be some burning that has to happen here.
Well, it has to be. I mean, this is the reality.
Yeah.
The illusory world is illusory, but it can be very, very attractive to the illusory self that you believe yourself to be through the form in the form world. This is not the true reality, though. And when you know yourself in the real sense, this snaps, just gone. There's no... Then you just have to remain with yourself through mantra, as we said, as we're turning up the heat, the trials will come because you'll be more courage with your selfless self. You'll step forward. You'll start moving in the direction that, yes, I must know myself.
Right.
If I was to die at 10 o'clock tonight, I must die with my selfless self and not with this illusory thing that I think that I might be,
Right.
that I'm not sure of, that there's a doubt.
And stop giving it all this power, because, we're the ones that, creating the power of the illusion.
Well, the power is you, but it's a formless power, a formless knowledge that all of this is appearing on that spontaneous presence. And to know yourself in a real sense, all of the illusion will disappear. Just disappear. Form will still be there, but the illusory thoughts that are going through the I am somebody else in body, mind, ego, intellect, erased.
Yeah, it's good. Sometimes you get a flavor for that, and then it serves as a motivation to continue because you get a little bit of taste of it. And then you're like, oh, that's where the happiness lies, not in the, what do you call it, the illusory world.
Yeah, there should be no attraction, no desire, no anything. Once you know yourself in a real sense, and it's not that you're relinquishing desires, they're just not there because what to desire? Okay, just like I fall asleep tonight and I have a dream that I'm a king and I desire more land. But when I wake up, it's all finished. So what? It just doesn't make sense.
Mm.
Knowing yourself in a real sense, desire and attachment, all these things that all these spiritual teachers say, oh, you should lessen your attachments, lessen your desires. It's not a matter of lessen. They disappear. The illusory attachments and the illusory desires disappear once you know yourself in a real sense. So that now becomes the number one priority. How do I know myself in a real sense? I have been given the mantra by my selfless self in the form of Sri Ramakant Maharaj in the sparkling lineage of the Inchigiri Navnath Sampradaya that goes all the way back to Dattatreya. I've been given that to know myself in a real sense, to use meditation, to remain with myself in a real sense, to remain with myself and be one with myself using mantra, moving about, doing my job, doing my duties, but remaining inwardly with myself until there comes a time where I'm so inwardly with myself that I see the outside world as projected from inside myself. Then there's no separation. And then occasionally I'll get into situations where I still, and I am somebody else, might bristle, and I am remaining with myself through mantra, remaining with myself through mantra, and I see that pass. I have the courage to step forward. The next step, the next step. And that energy, that selfless self that I am, as I start to move forward, it gives all the power that's needed and in the correct way.
Yeah, and then there's more satisfaction in the beingness somehow.
Well, there's no more disturbance of the peace because you've eliminated all those things that were blocking the peace that you are.
Yeah, and you're ending the war, the internal war that goes on between, you know, what am I doing and what am I supposed to be doing and all that stuff.
Yeah, because there's not an I am somebody else that any of those thoughts can appear to.
Mm-hmm.
That really simplifies the matter.
Maharaj says it's simple, simple, simple. Simple reality. Oops. The chapter in I Am That is desirelessness is ultimate bliss. Yes, because there's nothing bothering. There's no disturbance. There's nothing bothering.
Right.
Knowing yourself in a real sense, the thoughts as if they would come in for a while will dissolve because you're not paying any attention to them. So there's no concepts being built on them. You're remaining with your selfless self. Everything is you. Everything is yours. What is there to desire? Do I want a better car in the illusion? And see, that can happen. You can look at your neighbor and they're getting a really nice car and you say, I want a better car. Let me go online and check out cars and stuff like that. But see, it's fluffy clouds in the form of a car.
Right.
And you don't, it's okay if you go out to buy a new car, fine, do it. But don't give yourself away for it. Don't buy into the illusory world with trinkets. Like Maharaj says, the begging bowl. Don't go around begging. Once you know that like he tells the story about the kid who they take him to the bank. You're very, very rich, so stop begging. Stop bringing the begging bowl. Giving yourself away for little trinkets, little somethings here and there, little ideas, like Maharaj talked about the guy with the politics, or trying to get a promotion. Getting a promotion is fine. Do your job, do your duties. A promotion comes, it's good. But to be every day, I have to work 2 hours more to get this promotion, and I have to do this, and I need this, and all this. That's a belief in I am somebody else. A huge belief in I am somebody else, that a whole world of concepts is being built on. And the more concepts you build, the further and further away you come from your selfless self.
Yeah.
Nope. It's 9 o'clock.
Oh,
Magic hour.
Yes, indeed.
I didn't even notice. I was having such a good time.
That's great.
Yeah, I just happened to look down. I was like,
Yeah.
good.
Okay, folks.
Well, thank you very much. It was very great. Very good.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank
Yes,
you.
yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Remember Maharaj, Mixler, Ranjit Ashram. The Mixler, Ranjit Ashram. Every day
Okay.
he's having his talks put up there.
Okay, great. I wrote it down. Okay, great.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Thanks.